welcome to this edition of Meet the Candidates. I'm Catherine Parker. This November, Mamaroneck Village voters will be electing 3 members for the Village Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees, of course, is the legislative branch, like a city council for the village. There are 5 trustees in total, including the mayor. Unlike most villages in New York State, Mamaroneck does not have an elected executive. The board hires a village manager who heads up all village functions, like a CEO. The mayor is the presiding officer of the board, but otherwise operates like any other trustee. This year, 3 seats on the Board of Trustees are up for grabs. Mamaroneck voters must consider which of the candidates can best represent them and address important local issues. The outcome of this election will determine which party, whether Republican or Democrat, will have the majority on the board. I'm pleased to be speaking today with the 3 Democratic candidates for the Board of Trustees. Victor Tafur is an environmental lawyer and law professor. Victor teaches at Pace University Law School and Bard College. Victor, who was born and raised in Columbia, came to New York in 1997 and became a U.S. citizen in 2014. Victor and his wife have lived in Orienta for 12 years and have a 10-year-old daughter. Keith Waite lives in the Shore Acres neighborhood of Rye Neck. He chairs the Village Budget Committee and is a member of the Industrial Area Advisory Committee. After a career in global banking, in 2007, Keith started his own firm that trains financial sector personnel in risk management and compliance. Keith was born in Scotland and has lived in Mamaroneck for 18 years with his wife. Their 2 sons were educated in the Mamaroneck schools and now work in New York City. Leon Potok has served as a village trustee since 2012. Previously, Leon was chairman of the Village Budget Committee and served on the Mamaroneck School District Budget Finance Committee. For much of his career, Leon worked as a financial advisor to industrial labor unions. Leon and his wife raised 3 children in Mamaroneck and have lived in the Heathcote Hill neighborhood since 1998. Welcome to you all.
Thank you.
So you are all running as a slate. What does this slate stand for?
It's important to start off by saying that we actually see ourselves as a strong leadership team with complementary skills and experience to actually look at the issues that face us in the next 2 years and deal with them appropriately. Victor, Leon and I have actually been working together very closely for the last few months, and we realize that we actually have the same values and beliefs that are important moving forward. So our platform that we are presenting is really something that we all totally agree on, and that really is sensible development in Mamaroneck. It's environmental sustainability here, and most importantly, it's community involvement. And an example of that would probably be the development and the measured development and smart development in the village. We have issues coming up in the next 2 years about the industrial area, about rezoning, and about the size of houses that we believe we are approaching or would approach sensibly and sensitively as well to the people.
Excellent. How about you, Victor?
Well, we definitely share a very strong commitment to protecting the environment. And by environment, I mean not just the natural and physical environment, but also our relationship with the environment. So I'm talking about not just water quality, but quality of life and the character of our village, of our community. We have a beautiful harbor, we have beautiful parks, we actually have 3 rivers, and we need to protect them, but also they bring us some flooding that we need to work with and mitigate. So we have challenges there. For those challenges, you need expertise, you need strong leadership, and you even need you need a lot of money, you need resources, and we have to be proactive and diligent. Probably good news is we got a grant to work on infrastructure. So those are the type of ideas that we're working together and want to push forward.
Excellent. And Leon, what would you like to add to this?
So the 3 of us share commitments to environmental sustainability and to smart development. We also share a commitment to community participation. One of the things that I'm proud of in my tenure in the last 4 years is being instrumental in creating a number of new nonpartisan volunteer committees to study issues and make recommendations to the Board of Trustees and the village manager. I've worked hard to get those voices heard. When people get involved, government is better. The more voices, the better the solutions. And we have to insist that the voices of volunteers and residents are heard, and that what goes on in our village government is open and transparent.
So let's stay on this idea of volunteerism and community activism. Victor, would you like to tell the audience a little bit about your participation?
Yeah, sure. I started paying attention to village affairs more closely around 2008 when they were adopting or working on the adoption of a comprehensive plan, which is really the vision for how we do planning in the village. And it's very important for planning and zoning. I participated, I came with some comments, and then I realized that I really had to participate. I've been working for 20 years in environmental topics with community groups, with businesses, with local government, but I had to really pay attention to my community, and that's what got me in. I recently worked a little bit with the coastal policies, the citizens working on that, which is actually very important because we need to have citizens participate, not just have the consultants come and do the work. So I think that's important.
Absolutely. And Keith, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I mean, from a personal perspective, I believe that working as a volunteer on these committees is for me giving something back to the community that I've taken from for the last 18 years living here, my family and I. So I really like the fact that I'm actually giving something back to the community, and the roles that I have on these committees I think are making a solid contribution to the village government. For example, the Industrial Area Committee, we are very, very aware that we need to collaborate with a number of different stakeholders. So, you know, the community outreach there is very important, you know, whether it's the business owners or residents or the environmental groups, that's very important. I think also from a larger point of view, it's important that we do get communities to speak, get the residents to say what they want to say, and it's very important for us to listen to that. I think when we were out knocking on doors, so many people said, you know, in this village money talks. Well, it should be the residents that talk, and we're prepared to listen to that.
Excellent. So I'm going to go to a topic that you may...
May I just finish up on that?
Oh, surely on...
So, as I mentioned earlier, I'm very proud of having worked to create new committees. And one of the new committees we created was the Marine Education Center Advisory Committee. It was formed by the board, and we appointed volunteers from the community. We appointed representatives from Committee for the Environment and Save the Sound and village staff. Very quickly, the committee came up with a plan for expanding and upgrading the center using public funds and private donations. The new center reopened during the summer and really puts us at the forefront of educating children and the community about the local marine environment and the Long Island Sound. The committees are also very helpful in terms of depoliticizing issues that would otherwise divide us. So several years ago, for example, the village retained a consultant to help us solve the issues we were facing in the downtown with parking. The consultant came back with advice, and people raised objections. The mayor raised objections. Some members of the community raised objections. So we decided, instead of butting heads, we would form a committee of volunteers that would do some research work with staff and come back with recommendations. Parking is controversial in many communities, and so it has been the case here. It's been rocky, but we've been working with the committee to get advice and to follow through on their recommendations. As a third example, I would say in the last couple of years, we're in the midst of a housing boom, and developers are in the community trying to find properties that they can develop. And we've heard complaints from residents about overdevelopment, of building large houses out of proportion when lots are subdivided. Rather than trying to solve the problem ourselves, we went to our local experts, our planning board, which is a committee of volunteers who deal with planning issues month after month. And they came back with recommendations for us for how to rezone in order to protect the character of our neighborhoods. And those recommendations were translated into proposed laws that are now being under consideration by the board.
So now I'm going to jump to another topic, one that I don't think is going to be a shocker, but let's talk about civility. You know, I think that people have commented at times about there being at times a lack of civility. Keith, would you like to
Sure,
say anything
yes.
on
I'm
that?
extremely passionate about the whole civility and respect issue. Call me old-fashioned or British, but that's really important to me. We call ourselves the Friendly Village, but then when you walk into a Board of Trustee meeting, you wonder where that tag comes from. I think it has to come from the top, the tone from the top. The leadership team has to set an example. We have to be more civil, more respectful to each other. And it's a difficult balance between emotion and fact, but really what we're looking for are the facts of the issue and try and put emotion aside where we can. People have asked me why young people don't get involved in government, don't get involved. And I said, well, you really have to start off with local government. And what I'd love to do is to have kids from the high school or even from middle school come and sit in on a Board of Trustees meeting. We can't possibly do that right now. It would be an embarrassment to everyone, and therefore, that's one of the aims that we should have as a leadership team, is really start to change the tone of how these meetings are held.
Excellent. Victor, what would you like to say on that?
Well, I agree, and actually this is an issue that's also very close to my heart. I became a U.S. citizen a couple of years ago, as you mentioned, and I strongly believe in the rule of law and respect for one another. That's one most valuable treasure we have, and we need to work hard. I was born and raised in Colombia, which has been suffering conflict for over 50 years now. So I really treasure what we have, and I think we share a commitment to work on civility and respect.
And Leon, as the incumbent, maybe you can have a different take on it a little bit from the other two.
Well, there'll always be differences of opinion in our friendly village. Differences of opinion are healthy, except they're healthy if they form a basis for dialogue, but not when they form a basis for personal attacks. And in our village at the board level, we have one person on the board whose job it is to make sure that the proceedings are civil and respectful. That's the job of the mayor in his role as presiding officer. The problem with the lack of civility that people have complained about is that it reflects poorly on all of us, and it really discourages participation by members of the public. And so as a team, if we can elevate the level of discussion, that will reflect on us for the positive, but also will allow more involvement by residents.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. So I believe that there are actually a couple of referendums that people will be voting on in November. Maybe, Leon, we could start with you, and you can talk a little bit about those referendums.
Okay, so we have two referenda on the ballot. There are two laws that were passed by the Board of Trustees, and in order to be implemented, they need voter approval. The more important of the two laws has to do with who has the authority to nominate appointments to the two important boards, the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Planning Board. These are the two critical land use boards in our village. The laws that were passed in the referendum will ask voters to decide whether or not they agree that the authority should transfer from the mayor to the full Board of Trustees for making nominations, and that interim vacancies, which are now the sole authority of the mayor, would be transferred as well to the board. But this new law is not really new. What it would do would restore the way things were done in this village for 80 years. It was in 2010, when the mayor had a majority on the board, that he was able to pass a law that transferred the authority to the mayor's position. It was done without any public discussion and without really the public being aware of it. And it really points to the importance of having a majority on the board and why it's important for the three of us to be elected as the majority.
And also for public discussion, right?
Right.
Victor, would you like to?
I'll just add that those planning boards make decisions that affect our daily our life every day. A good example is the issue we've had recently with the ice cream place. The decision about the hours of operation, the traffic, the parking, all those decisions are made by those land use boards. So the better they function, the better they are conformed, who sits on those boards, benefits everybody. So I think it's as simple as that.
And Keith?
Yes, I don't really have too much more to say. All I can say is that as a business person, you know, 5 people making decisions are better than 1 person. They come up with more balanced decisions. It's not a political issue as far as I'm concerned. It's just a sensible government issue.
Fantastic. So the basic question that everybody at home wants to know is, why are you running? You know, I think as people in elected office, other people think you've got to be crazy to want this job. But where should we begin? How about Keith?
I'll start. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's an important year nationally for politics, clearly, with the presidential election, but it's also an equally important year for local government, because really what happens in local government actually affects all of us on an everyday basis. And it's also important here in Mamaroneck when 3 out of the 5 trustees are up for election. So that combination, I think, makes it very important for people to get out and vote this year, because there's so much in the future of Mamaroneck that can be decided through this election. I'm going to tell you why people should vote for Leon, just to throw a spanner in the works on this. I've known Leon for a number of years, and I've also known him as a trustee for the last 4 years, and I think he's actually a very dedicated trustee. He actually has such a handle on what goes on in local government. He knows, you know, the facts better than anyone that I know. He is a most dedicated official that I've seen in recent years. And I really believe in areas such as the flooding issue and things coming up, he really does have a handle on all those issues that's going to make Mamaroneck a better place.
Excellent.
Yeah. I can tell you, well, I'm running because really we are behind a platform. It's not about different people of expertise. Actually, we support one another, but it's really behind certain ideas and some clear platform that we're going to push forward. But since Keith started with Leon, let me say something about him. I think he brings in, first, a great sense of humor that we need, and wit that I wish I had a bit of that. But of course, most important, he has a tremendous experience in the financials world and compliance. I think that's going to be a great asset. He has worked on the budget committees, sitting there for a while, so he's ready to give us his ideas and put them to use, and he's also working, I believe, in the Industrial Advisory Committee, which I think is one of the most interesting ideas and innovations that we're going to be working. So I think we embrace Keith and for this team and for this village.
Excellent.
So let me tell you about Victor. We're very fortunate to have Victor on the Democratic ticket. He's a model for what American citizenship should be. He has put down roots in our community and is committed to public service. His entire career is about environmental concerns. He's an environmental lawyer and has used those skills and abilities to make the world a better place. Certainly his familiarity with environmental issues will help us as we tackle those issues at the village level. It's also a real plus that Victor speaks Spanish and has a wide network of people and friends in the community. We all want the local government that will cherish and respect diversity and will be inclusive for our diverse community as well. The 3 of us look forward to representing all of Mamaroneck, but I think what Victor has to offer is special and unique, and we treasure that. We are a team, and it's important to elect the 3 of us. As a majority, we can make things happen. We've had a majority the last several years, and as a Democratic majority, we were able to reduce water rates by $2 million a year. We were able to avoid a controversial policy for clean parks and recreational fields of killing Canadian geese and finding alternatives to that. And I think we can make much progress working together as a majority in the next 2 years.
Excellent. I want to say that there's so much more that we could be talking about, and there's so much going on in the village, but I'm afraid that's all the time that we have today. So I thank you, gentlemen, for coming in to meet the candidates. And Keith Waite, Victor Tafur, and Leon Potok are the 3 Democratic candidates for the Board of Trustees. You can find out more about them online at mamaroneckdems.org. Thank you again for sharing your time and your ideas. And voters, just remember, November 8th is Election Day. And while you're going to be making an important decision on voting for president, continue down the line and vote all through for the local officials as well.
And the referendum.
And the referendum, yes, absolutely. The two referendum. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you.
All
Thank you.
right.